This is CBC Here and Now.
Way too high.
We definitely have changed our driving habits.
We used to burn $60 a day, now we're doing $120.
We're getting prices of gas, we're getting tax on top of taxes on top of taxes.
Gas stations say fuel prices will jump by 15 cents a litre overnight.
Now that's on top of today's increase of nearly 5 cents. How are people handling the price hikes?
Among those who really feel the pinch at the pump, cab companies.
You've got to absorb the cost out of your own pocket, right?
What they have to say about rising gas prices, that's just ahead.
You're looking at a live shot of Costco in St. John's. The lineup stretches down the road.
Yeah, drivers are doing what they can to try and beat tonight's big price hike.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Peter Cowan. It's our top story tonight. The price of gas went up today, and that's just the beginning.
CBC News has learned that the price of gas will see a major hike tomorrow. Here Now's Garrett Barry has details on what's coming, and he joins us now live from Gander. Garrett.
That's right, Anthony. The price of gasoline in this province is going to jump by as much as 14.5 cents per litre tonight at midnight. That information is coming to us from multiple gas station operators across the province in Newfoundland and in Labrador. And when you combine that with the 4.5 cent increase we saw already this morning, it means that some part of this province are going to see a litre of gasoline cost $2. That is a record high. The Public Utilities Board usually sets the price of gasoline once a week on Thursdays, but it does have the power to make extraordinary adjustments, and that's what's happening here in response to a major market shift. Gas stations tell us they've been instructed to raise the price at midnight. Well, analysts in this industry say the conflict in Ukraine has caused a major shakeup in the market, but for people in this province, life is getting more expensive.
Even down to like getting my dog groomed. If I got to go out of town to get my dog groomed, it costs me the price of gas to go out, the price of gas to come back, to go again, and come back again. Who's going to do it? People aren't going to do it. But you do what you can with what you got, but there's going to be a lot of people struggling because of it.
I have no control over it, and if I want to drive, I have to pay the price. I may not like it, but things like that are beyond the average guy's control. There's something to do with the major oils and the political situation in the world. But as far as around town here, no, I usually get into St. John's once or twice a year, and other than that, just arrive around central Newfoundland on and off. But my mileage is way down compared to 2 years ago.
It's just my husband and I, but we definitely have changed our driving habits. We don't go across the island as much as we used to see his son in paradise. So we've gone from 4 to maybe 1 trip a year.
There's not much I can do about it. No matter who's in government, they're going to do the same thing. We're getting prices of gas, we're getting tax on top of taxes on top of taxes.
We don't really do much outside of the ordinary, like school drop-offs, work drop-offs, back and forth. There's a couple extracurriculars in between, and basically that's about it. But, with the cost of gas rising like that, I feel like not just myself, a lot of people are probably trying to avoid anything extra.
What you're seeing right now across this province is huge lineups. There's huge lineups here in Gander. There's huge lineups at the Costco on the Avalon Peninsula. Cars down the road waiting to get fuel up before this price increase. People are doing what they can to beat the price hike. But talking to operators of gas stations and commuters in this province, people say they are changing their behavior. There's not much you can do to change the commute into work, but you can travel less, you can use your skidoo less, you can go hiking less if you got to drive to get there. And now the major concern is what's going to happen to all the other prices of all the other goods that get transported to this province on trucks. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Garrett Barry in Gander.
Now, Western Labrador is one region that will be paying around $2 a litre for gas tomorrow. Long lines there today as well as people rush to fill up ahead of time.
Well, what's going on in the world, the gas prices really are not a big deal. We need to support what's going on in Ukraine and support our governments at what they're doing.
Asked Andrew Fury, how come we're still paying 5 cents a litre for come by chance? It's not producing no oil. We don't get no North Atlantic fuels up here. So we're being ripped off by the Newfoundland government.
And is it affecting with the taxi business? Is that cutting into your profits?
We used to burn $60 a day, now we're doing 120.
Way too high.
Will this be curbing how you're going to be using your snowmobile or cars?
Probably not the car, but I'd say the snowmobile is going to slow down a little bit.
So how much of an increase are we seeing with gasoline? Well, to give you a little bit of context, tomorrow when I fill this little 5-litre can for regular self-serve gas on the Avalon, I'll be looking at about $1.90 a litre. So that's $9.60 to fill it. A year ago, in March, I would have paid $1.39, more than 50 cents less per litre, filling this can for $6.95. And if I go back another 12 months to March of 2020, it was $1.20 or $6 to fill this can. So now, 2 years later, as I mentioned off the top, starting tomorrow, this can will cost just under $10.
Now, you heard from one cab driver there. For those who drive for a living, this hike in prices hits especially hard. Here now's Henrike Wilhelm has more on how cab companies are reacting.
A whopping $1.77 per litre makes filling up a costly and depressing chore, especially for those who rely on gas for their jobs.
You do feel it every day. Every shift, it's, $5 or $10 more that you're probably having to pay out per car. And over a year, a car owner or just a driver, they definitely feel the squeeze.
A struggle no different on the West Coast.
I've been only driving since before Christmas. I started December 23rd. Yeah. And I've noticed a difference already in since every time the price goes up, how much it comes out of my own pocket to absorb the price of gas, right?
The issue for cab stands, fares are set and can't be adjusted to absorb the rising cost of gas.
We can't put up our prices on our fares, right, without city approval. So you've got to absorb the cost out of your own pocket, right? Which makes it even harder to balance out the driving the cab and paying for all the fees that you have, and making it worth your while to stay at it, right, as a cab driver.
We did just have a rate increase in January, but that was to cover the increase in prices from now till 10 years ago. So to see what's happened over the last 3 months, it is what it is. We don't like making snap judgments by just throwing an increase out there because of a temporary increase in fuel prices. And it wouldn't be fair to the consumer to just turn around and ask for another rate increase. We can always be hopeful that gas prices eventually will go down, but we're kind of at the whim of what international oil price or price per barrel is.
A difficult situation for cab drivers.
I'm hoping that somehow the absorbs the cost of gas, or it will go down hopefully within a reasonable amount of time. But it is making it a lot difficult to stay at it and make a decent dollar.
Hollett says there is no quick fix, but if the trend continues, cab companies might have to take long-term measures, like introducing some sort of fuel tax for passengers or making part of the fleet electric. Henrike Wilhelm, CBC News, St. John's.
And tomorrow, some parts of the province will wake up to gas that's $2 a litre, the highest it's ever been. Another increase that's expected, April's carbon tax. But the PC finance critic says it doesn't have to be that way and believes now is the time to act.
This is an opportunity for government to step up and do something for the people of the province. And I believe, quite frankly, that there are things they could do. We haven't even talked yet about the increase that's coming as a result of carbon tax. I would suggest that the Minister of Finance, if she hasn't done so already, should be writing her counterpart in Ottawa immediately to defer the increase that's anticipated to come in April as a result of carbon tax.
That's a pretty pretty nice day out there today. Saw a little bit of sunshine earlier, and then those clouds were on the increase out ahead of our next weather maker that is moving across the maritime provinces as we speak. And if we take a look at the warnings right now, snowfall warnings are in place for the Avalon. And when we head through the night tonight over the next couple of hours, we're already starting to see some of those flurries show up. But the snow will intensify as we head through the night tonight. About 8, 9 o'clock is when it really should start. It's going to stay heavy as we head through the night tonight. And then by tomorrow morning, that will taper off. We'll talk about amounts when I come back.
Well, we seem to have some technical problems here with our teleprompter. It has stopped working. Anthony, Oh, there we go. A poll from Narrative Research says support for the Fury Liberals is still strong. 350 Newfoundlanders and Labradorians were asked who they'd vote for if an election was held today. According to the company, 49% chose the Liberals. That's essentially unchanged from the fall. The PCs had 32% support and the NDP 15%. Support for the Liberals was stronger in those 55 and older, while those aged 35 to 45 were split between the two main parties. The survey was done last month over the phone. The results are accurate to within 5.2 percentage points 95 times out of 100.
All right, and now to other news. The CEO of Grieg Seafoods is in the province to meet with the company's local staff as well as politicians. Grieg is developing a massive aquaculture operation in Marystown, which is expected to create hundreds of jobs. Andreas Kvama says the infrastructure is being built now and the facility should be up and running in the coming months.
So now it is about getting the pens in place, the nets in place, feeding system in place, etc. But also, not at least, it's also to get the infrastructure when it comes to digital infrastructure in place. So that's also something that we are working hard on now. So hopefully in May, depending very much on the temperature, somewhere between 2 and 3 million fish will be put to sea this summer.
Now, critics fear the farm salmon will escape from the pens and breed with wild salmon. Kvama says the company is using the newest and best equipment available to try to prevent that from happening. He expects the fish to come out of the water by the autumn of 2023, and most of those fish will be processed in nearby St. Lawrence. Now, the salmon grown here will be sold to larger markets on the mainland and in the United States.
The Canadian government continues to expand its response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Today, Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland announced a blanket 35% tariff on all goods coming into Canada from Russia and its ally, Belarus. And Immigration Minister Sean Fraser announced Ottawa is going to make it easier for Ukrainians who want to come to Canada.
We're launching 2 new special programs for Ukrainians who want to come to Canada temporarily and for those who wish to stay. For those who need a safe haven while the war ravages their homeland, we are creating the Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel. We are also introducing an expedited path to permanent residency for Ukrainians seeking to reunite with family members who are already in Canada through a new family sponsorship program.
Defense Minister Anita Anand announced further military aid for Ukraine. Canada will send up to 4,500 rocket launchers and 7,500 hand grenades. Ottawa is also giving Ukraine $1 million towards the purchase of high-resolution satellite imagery to help monitor the movement of Russian forces. Athletes from Russia and Belarus won't be allowed to compete at this year's Paralympic Games. And apologize, we're having a few technical issues there. Today's decision comes less than 24 hours after the International Paralympic Committee said that the athletes would be allowed to compete as neutrals. Canada's Paralympic Committee issued a statement saying it was pleased the IPC has done the right thing. woman from Mount Pearl has been making a name for herself in the National Basketball Association.
Yeah, and our apologies for the difficulties. We're trying to get a handle on these. Now, Stacey Leewood has been an NBA player agent for less than a year, but she's already got her first client some playing time in the league in Los Angeles. Now, the 24-year-old is considered to be one of the youngest player agents in the NBA, but her success didn't happen overnight.
Yeah, we'll let Leewood explain, but it's a long way from Mount Pearl to LA.
Basketball has always been my first love. It was like the only thing that I was really passionate about. And I didn't realize that it was something that I could do as a job or as a career and it be actually something that could happen. Like you hear about it in bigger cities, but it's not something that you can do in Newfoundland because there's really no entertainment industry. There's very few jobs in the world in basketball, let alone in Canada. I decided that if there weren't any current jobs in the industry, the only thing I could do would be make one. And the easiest job to make in the basketball industry is to represent players. Went on the Players Association website and figured out step by step how to apply to be an agent. Spent a few months studying after I got approved to write the test. And yeah, in March of last year, so it still hasn't been a year yet, I finally got certified as an NBA player agent.
Going to have to bail them out on the three. It is good for Xavier Moon.
Blew my mind that there's so many agents in the world and not a single NBA agent asked to represent him. He didn't have an NBA agent when I picked him up. So I thought he deserved better. And that's why I became an agent, was to be able to help people and help people that deserve better. And if you ask anybody that knows Xavier Moon, they'll tell you he's like the nicest guy you'll ever meet. He's worked for absolutely everything he's ever had in his life. And I just figured, why not him? So I reached out to him. Like I said, he kind of figured that if anybody was going to make it happen, it was me, because I was really determined to do it. And sure enough, it was not easy at all.
Really in the second half, they just weren't able to slow down the Pelicans. 3 falls for Xavier Moon.
So I created a document and I sent it out to, if not every G League team, probably like 25 to 30 of them, and just comparing him to other players that he was beaten up in the CBL league that had already played in the G League. And sure enough, we got to a point where there was a lot of interest, and he finally felt comfortable for me to take him out of Italy and take him away from that guaranteed money to take a chance on the G League, which is not easy for him to do either. Every single day, I'm grateful he gave me the chance, and I'm sure he's pretty grateful right now too. I will never understand how he feels, because this has been his dream his entire life. And just being able to be the one to make that happen for somebody that deserves it so much is the most surreal thing that could possibly happen.
Moon. Yep, that's his spot.
To grow up a basketball fan and then be able to not only see him on TV playing against people that we grew up watching, but also to be there. When he got that first 10-day contract, I didn't care how much it cost. I booked the next flight to LA, and I was out of Newfoundland, and I was on my way across the continent to see that first game. And just seeing him warm up and like step on the floor the first time was like the craziest experience, to know like I did that.
Moon gets the jumper.
We joked about a lot of nice sunny destinations that he would love to play in. But I think any good situation, anywhere that somebody wants to hold on to him for the rest of the season or hold on to him for the next couple seasons, we're looking at all of those options. And I will be shocked, based on how hard we've both worked for this, that it doesn't happen. Taking advantage of this experience and essentially just do it again. I want to find more people that deserve to be there. And I like looking for players that other agents aren't looking at. Everybody asks me, oh, like what draft picks are you looking at? But those guys are going to get a chance regardless. That's not really my target. I want to take guys that otherwise without me wouldn't have a chance and get them to live their dreams. Eventually, I'm hoping to partner with an agency, but for now I've been doing it by myself and it's been working for me. So maybe I'll join an agency in the future. You never know. But for now, it's just duplicate what I've done and kind of impact and change some more lives.
Well, there's no shortage of snow in some parts of the province. We'll show you that. And then more snow on the way for parts of eastern Newfoundland. Of the full forecast coming up.
Well, Here and Now is on the move again, though temporarily. This is because of the Paralympics, which start next week. So the show is going to be on half an hour later than usual. So that's 6:30 in Newfoundland, 6 o'clock in most parts of Labrador. That all starts next week, March 7th, and it's for that 1 week only. Don't forget to tune in.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Ashley, we saw lots of people lining up to get gas. They probably want to get a little bit for the snowblower based on the forecast.
That is not a bad idea. Definitely going to see some snow as we head through the night tonight. But speaking of snow, I want to show you a video that's being shared online, taken on the south coast of Labrador. Check this out. Dale Ryan took the video this weekend. It's the town of Red Bay, and this is a narrow tunnel that was carved out so that people can get around in the community. That is a lot of snow, and that just really puts that into perspective.
Oh yeah, the rock cuts in southern Labrador, there's not much in the way of trees, so once you get a little bit of a valley like that, a little bit of snow and a little bit of wind, fills right in there.
There you can see just the scope of that compared to the house there.
Yeah.
Just absolutely incredible. So how much snow are we talking about for that area? 427 centimeters so far this season has been recorded on the south coast there along the strait. Now we're talking numbers, you normally should be seeing around 270 centimeters. Happy Valley, Goose Bay, 254 centimeters. And then St. John's, you might be surprised, but the number is 219 centimeters. Now, all of that snow, a lot of the times this winter has been followed by either a big warm up or rain. So there's not a whole lot of snow on the ground. Now we talk about Gander. Gander's at about 278 centimeters. That's more than Happy Valley, Goose Bay. But then we talk about how much is actually on the ground. So Lanslou is seeing about 153 centimeters on the ground right now, pretty much next to nothing for Gander, and then 90 centimeters in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. So Gander, you're going to add a couple of centimeters more tonight with this system that's going to move through. But temperatures today were absolutely pretty nice, actually. 1 degree in St. John's, 2 in Cape Race, and then those temperatures across Labrador still into the minus double digits, minus 15 in Makkovik this evening, or rather this afternoon, and minus 8 in Cartwright. Now those temperatures haven't really moved too much. A few degrees you've lost through Cartwright at about minus 12. And then temperature for St. John's is down to minus 2, a little bit of a wind chill out there as well. Now temperatures are going to dip even more so as we head through the night tonight, about minus 9 in Gander, minus 12 in Corner Brook tonight, and then up across Labrador, another cold night for Lab City at minus 28 with those winds out of the northwest between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. So you're looking at another chilly night with that wind chill as well. You'll also notice that the winds, as we head through the morning hours in the eastern areas of the island, are going to pick up. They'll be out of the northwest, gusting between 40 to 60 kilometers per hour. Taking a look at the satellite and radar picture right now, some flurries starting to show up, and it's being picked up for most of the Avalon as we speak, or at least the northwest and the south. And the model's doing a pretty good job on that. So as we head through the night tonight, about 8, 9 o'clock this evening, we should start to see that snow for most of eastern Newfoundland. It's going to get heavy between, say, 10, 11 o'clock tonight and continue to stay fairly heavy until we get into about 4 o'clock in the morning. And that's when we're expecting those winds to ramp up as well. So blowing snow will certainly be the story if you're heading out the door early tomorrow morning. And then as the morning rolls around, we should actually see that snow taper to flurries, and then altogether it should taper off. But the onshore flurry activity will continue for the west coast for a good chunk of tomorrow, and expect some more flurries for the coast, south coast, as well as along the northwest, or rather the northeast through the afternoon. Not a whole lot happening up across Labrador tomorrow, just a mix of sun and cloud, but that flurry activity will generally continue for the southern areas of the island. Taking a look at the amounts, that snowfall warning is in place for the Avalon, and that's because we're going to see somewhere between 10 to 15 centimeters. There are some pockets, though, potentially of about 15 to 20 centimeters, but most of the Avalon will see that. As you head a little bit further west, those amounts will be closer to 5 to 10 than Gander. You're looking at a 2 to maybe 5 centimeters of snow by the time tomorrow afternoon rolls around. Temperatures through the day tomorrow aren't going to move too much from the morning, so we should hover around -5 for St. John's, with those winds shifting from northwesterlies to westerlies as the day goes on, and it'll be a bit brisk through the day, about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. As you head towards the west coast, more in the way of gray skies, more in the way of those onshore flurries. Temperatures much cooler as well, feeling more like -10. Factor in that wind chill, it'll feel closer to the -teens. -teens the story for the northern peninsula, and then up across Labrador you're looking at your temperatures in the -teens as well. -20 the story for Nain under some sunshine. So that's a look at the forecast for tomorrow. We'll look at your weekend forecast when I come back.
The Premier has talked about relief coming in the budget. You know, we cannot wait for the budget. The people of our province need help now.
The opposition calls for relief for rising fuel prices as gas analysts explain what these driving increases are being caused by.
And consumers rush to fill up ahead of a steep price hike.
gas prices are about to soar even further for the second time just this week. It's going to be an extraordinary increase. Gas station operators are telling us that they'll be jacking up prices by almost 15 cents per litre, and typically this is accompanied by significant increases for all fuels. Tony Wakeham is the Progressive Conservatives finance critic, and he joins us now from Stephenville. So, Mr. Wakeham, we have so many concerns about inflation in a province that already pays some of the highest prices. What impact will these kinds of fuel increases have on the economy of Newfoundland and Labrador?
Anthony, we've been asking for government to take some action since November on this, as we saw these prices increase. This announcement today is, it's going to have a tremendous impact on people on fixed incomes, people, seniors in our province. It was just the other day that I spoke with a senior who had an income of $1,300 a month, and he wound up paying more than $1,300 in the last 4 weeks just to fill up his oil tank. Now, this increase that's expected tomorrow is going to add significantly more cost to that. So, we need to start, the government needs to move immediately on a home rebate program. The Premier has talked about relief coming in the budget. We cannot wait for the budget. The people of our province need help now. In the past, we've had a very successful home rebate program. And so, it needs to be dusted off and re-implemented. We're not suggesting that, it needs to be broad for everyone, but it certainly needs to target those individuals in particular who really find themselves struggling. And it's possible for government to do it, because at the same time as these oil prices are rising throughout the world, our government is a beneficiary of increased revenue as a result of that. Again, we're not suggesting that they take all of their revenue. We know their surplus position, or their budgeted deficit position rather, for this year will be better than they forecast. That was already in place when they gave their mid-year update. Mm-hmm. So we can only assume that it's increased. So what we're asking for is to take some of that additional revenue. Don't have to take it all, but please take some of it and offer a home rebate program to the people of our province who really need it.
There is that reality that you mentioned, this extreme pain at the pumps, but profit for the government's coffers. But I wonder, given the international nature of the pressures that put these kinds of measures in place where gas and fuels rise so much, don't we just have to ride some of this out?
Again, absolutely. But again, the fact that the government is one of the beneficiaries in terms of increased revenue, the fact that government finds itself in a better financial position, we all know that this is a national issue, this is an international issue. But at the same time, government does have levers that it can pull to help the people of our province. And right now, it has the benefit of being in a better financial position than it originally budgeted for. Now, the Minister of Finance will tell us about all the programs that they have currently in place. And they're all great programs. But they were introduced at a time when there was a need based on a predetermined other price of gas and oil. When oil was being budgeted in their budget at $65 a barrel. Yesterday it was well over $100 a barrel. So again, it's about choice. The government has a choice. It can choose to do nothing, or it can choose to help the people of Newfoundland and Labrador who really need it.
I have one last question for you, Mr. Wakeham. You and I are of the vintage where we can remember how many people freaked out when gas hit $1. Remember that? There are parts of this there are parts of this province that are going to wake up to $2 gasoline. How surprised are you about where we are now?
Well, I think, over the last 5 months, we've seen oil prices increase. That's why we've been out talking about it for the last 5 months, because we saw it in the fiscal update that the Minister of Finance gave us. We've also seen it continue to increase. We've had supply chain issues as a result of COVID, and now we've seen the significant increase of in gas prices due partly, I guess, because of that unfortunate situation in Ukraine and what's happening over there. But, that's why governments are there to govern. And governments are there to make choices. And again, I simply say it's time for the Liberal government to choose the people of Newfoundland and Labrador and help those who really need it.
All right, Tony Wakeham in Stephenville, appreciate your time tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony.
So we want to understand a little bit about what's driving these record high prices. So we're going to bring in Robert Jones, who is with the CBC in St. John, New Brunswick. Thanks for joining us. So I want to get a sense here. A lot of people are scratching their head at these new high numbers. What is behind this big increase?
Well, Peter, as you know, it's been a terrible winter for energy prices already, but what's happening in the last week obviously is related to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. If you go back to early December to where we were last week, prices were already up across Atlantic Canada, 20 cents a liter for gasoline, 30 cents a liter for diesel fuel. So that had been happening already, and some of that was in anticipation of a possible Russian invasion. Russia, of course, is a big oil producer. It's a member of OPEC. It's also a big exporter of refined petroleum products into the U.S., and there was just concern if it got itself into a conflict or if it caused a conflict, that would disrupt oil markets. And boy, traders, after the invasion happened a week ago, were a little tentative about taking a position whether this would be serious or not. But starting on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the price of oil shot up, the prices of refined products shot up, and we're starting to see the effects of that on the street here in Atlantic Canada.
So is this companies taking advantage of this in terms of padding their bottom line with more profits?
Well, you know what? There has been actual significant increases in markets unrelated to what's going on in Atlantic Canada. In fact, all Atlantic provinces really take their prices from trading in New York. We saw on diesel, for example, we saw a 5 cent a liter increase in trading on Monday, 6 cents on Tuesday, and then we saw this massive 13 cent a liter price increase in trading in New York yesterday on Wednesday. And those are happening rapidly, and these provincial regulatory bodies are struggling to incorporate that into the pricing structure. We have seen this before. It happened at the start of both Gulf Wars. It happened when Hurricane Katrina and Rita hit New Orleans. And every once in a while, there's a big global event that really sends petroleum markets roiling, and we're in the middle of that right now.
So is this the worst of it, or are you expecting more increases to come?
Well, thankfully today, trading was much more subdued than it was yesterday. In fact, it doesn't look like prices are advancing at all from where they were yesterday, so that's good news. Obviously, both New Brunswick and Newfoundland and Labrador set prices today on Thursday, but both provinces are looking at increasing them again with these interrupter adjustments tonight at midnight. But beyond that, and even into next week, you could see prices come down a little bit. So if you can just hang on for a week, things might be a little bit better next week than they are this week.
Thank you very much, Bob. Appreciate your insights and your advice.
My pleasure.
Cool. Okay, we're gonna go see some wildlife.
We might see the muskrat. Like, this is really nice muskrat habitat.
It's very deeply ingrained to be afraid of bats. They're really important.
The first bird to be threatened, really, would be the game with global warming.
It's only found in this little tiny strip. It's part of Newfoundland, right?
The UN's refugee agency says more than 1 million people have fled the fighting in Ukraine, people pouring into neighboring countries as Russian forces intensify their assaults. Russia's military is now laying siege to Mariupol. The southern port city has been the scene of fighting for several days now. It's reported to be without communications, electricity, or water. The Russians claim to have also taken Kherson, another Black Sea port. And another southern city has become the focus of fighting, home to the largest nuclear reactor in Europe, which supplies about 1/4 of Ukraine's electricity. Fighting also continues around the capital. And there was a second day of ceasefire talks today, and Ukrainian officials say there will be a third. Now, as mentioned, the number of refugees from Russia's war in Ukraine is now 1 million and counting. The CBC's Susan Ormiston is at a crowded train station in the western Ukrainian city of Lviv, where many of those escaping to safety are forced to part with loved ones and stay back to defend their country.
This is an epic migration of people from Ukraine. We're 1 week into this war, and they're still coming to crowd onto these trains to get out. Because as the shelling continues in cities around Ukraine, as the missiles keep dropping, people who thought they could ride it out are giving up and getting out. They're running to this train station, coming from all parts of Ukraine to the westernmost point here in Lviv, and this train headed to Poland. We've seen some heartbreaking scenes, fathers having to give their babies over to their wives to get on the train. They must stay if they're fighting age. We've seen a lot of medical emergencies as people exhausted by the last few days have tried to get to these trains. We're hearing stories of shelling and people spending 5 days in their basements in Kharkiv, and that's why they're leaving. The UN now says over 1 million people are leaving Ukraine, and more will come. This is the end of the road in this country for them. They don't know when they'll be back, and they're leaving everything behind. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, in Lviv's train station.
So where are these refugees going? Well, Poland has taken in more than 500,000 of them. But even as a flood of humanity spills out of Ukraine, there is a trickle of people making their way into the embattled country. Our Adrian Arsenault is at one of those border crossing points.
So the flow of people coming from Ukraine into Poland is happening in waves all night and all day. A few days ago, it was thousands of people waiting at the border. Now the wait is much shorter, far fewer cars. In part, that's a good thing because people are being processed much faster. There's also an element to that that is really not good at all, which is that some people had heard that the lineups were so long they gave up and they went home. The curfews in some places are so strict that they just don't think they can make the drive enough. It's interesting. So all these people are getting on buses. Some of them aren't entirely clear where they're going, but they are going to shelters and temporary accommodation. But one of the things that's happening that you realize is that what compounds the heartbreak of it is that the traffic is not one way. So if you come over here a little bit, past the bus, down the road is a footpath. And the footpath is, of course, full of people who are crossing by foot with strollers. They've got kids and dogs and pets. But every now and then you see groups of people, not just men and women, who are walking in a determined fashion right back into Ukraine. You can just sort of see it down there. We've spoken with a number of them. They are saying either they're going to fight or they're going to find family and see if they can bring the family out. In one case, one man told us, when I asked him, how did you explain to your family here in Poland that you're going to fight? He said, they don't know. I made them a video here, and once I'm in, I'll send it to them. Adrian Arsenault, CBC News, on the border with Poland and Ukraine.
Welcome back. It started off as an exercise to sharpen his portrait-taking skills, but now Resemblance is on display at the Rooms. It's Eldred Allen's first solo exhibit, and it features 30 portraits of Rigolet elders. Have a look.
Hi, my name is Eldred Allen, and I'm from Rigolet in northern Labrador. I started a photo project in 2019 where I wanted to photograph as many elders in my community as possible. The reason I call it Resemblance is because when I was standing behind the camera looking through my viewfinder and taking pictures of the elders, oftentimes because I live and I'm from the community, I would see in their faces someone that they're related to. So when I looked at one elder, I saw his grandson. There was such a huge resemblance between the two. And I took a photograph of another lady, and when I showed her the picture on the back of the camera, she said, "I look just like my mother." So, you know, in each of the photographs, I was seeing how they resembled somebody else, or they were seeing it themselves. So it seemed like a really fitting title to call it Resemblance. I only started photography in the fall of 2018. And I was trying to learn and teach myself different techniques and different types of photography. So I was talking with my wife, and we were thinking of what would be an interesting photo project. Well, elders, of course, within any family, but especially, you know, in Inuit culture and Inuit families, they're traditional knowledge holders. You know, if people want to learn about the past and learn about the way things were done in the past, or, you know, they have questions about how things are changing, you know, they have so much built up knowledge and experience. They're so valuable and so important, and people see them as the real staples within the foundations of their family. So it seemed like a really important thing to go out and capture them. And the response I was getting, it really solidified the fact that, you know, people really see them as valuable and important, and they wanted to see them. So that spurred me on to want to continue and capture and show these elders in a really, you know, kind of an artistic and beautiful way that people may not have seen an image captured of them in that way before. To have a solo exhibition of 30 of my images, you know, shown in this space in the Rooms, I'd say I feel extremely humbled and very appreciative that they would see my photographs as important enough and captured in a way that is, you know, the technicality of the images themselves are good enough that they would be able to be displayed. I'm very appreciative and looking forward to getting down to see it for myself.
Yeah, congratulations. That's great. At 8 o'clock Island time, by the way, a half hour earlier in most parts of Labrador, Eldred Allen will take part in a special conversation live from the Rooms, and CBC is broadcasting that chat, and you can be part of that. It's on our Facebook page. You can watch and learn more about Eldred, ask him some questions maybe about his work, and that all starts in just about 1 hour's time from now on the CBC Newfoundland and Labrador Facebook page.
Well, we're already looking ahead to the weekend. As we head through tomorrow night, we're going to continue to see that onshore flurry activity for the west coast. A few flurries possible up across Labrador. And then as we head through the day on Saturday, that snow will generally continue, particularly for the west coast. Then we're going to start to see the chance of some flurries for the Burin Peninsula as well as the Avalon through the day on Sunday. We may see a few breaks in the cloud cover overall, but it will be an unsettled start to the weekend. Clearing out nicely though up across the Big Land. Your temperatures will be sitting in the minus teens and lots of sunshine for you, and then temperatures for the island will generally be sitting in those minus single digits, anywhere from -4 to -7. A little cooler for the northern peninsula, and you're actually looking at some sunshine for your Saturday. Now, as we head through Saturday evening into Sunday morning, the potential for those onshore flurries will generally continue. It will be gray pretty much through the weekend for you for the west coast. Some clearing skies, or at least some generally clear skies through the morning for the coast of Labrador, and then generally going to see that weather as well for the eastern half of the island. Now, as the day goes on, the next system is going to start to move in, and we're going to see some increasing cloud ahead of some snow for the west portion of Labrador, and eventually some periods of snow will develop across the island overnight Sunday. So temperatures until we get there will be sitting again in the minus single digits, about -2 for St. John's, -12 for Lab City. And again, your snow will arrive into the evening hours on Sunday. Now, taking a look at the long-range forecast, generally looking at those temperatures into the minus single digits, flirting with the 0-degree mark by the time we get to Monday, hovering around -1 into Tuesday. Now, this is when that snow will move in Monday night into Tuesday. And then for central Newfoundland, you're looking at a similar forecast. Overnight lows around -5 for Monday night, and then dipping again as we head into Tuesday. And there's those gray skies for western Newfoundland. Lots of snow on the way, or at least periods of snow on the way as we get into Monday, and then Tuesday around -2. Temperatures for eastern Labrador will be hovering around between -10 to -14, pretty much right through early next week. And then dipping a little bit on Monday for western Labrador, but then back up to the -teens by Tuesday. Take a look at this shot. Woody Point Lighthouse. Rodney shared that great shot with us. If you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
It's very Christmassy almost.
It does look Christmassy.
Yeah.
Lots of snow. Very happy about that, I'm sure, on the West Coast.
No doubt. Gorgeous shot. So I'm going to raffle this off to Here Now viewers tomorrow for a reasonable price once I get it filled tonight, I think. Wow, what a volatile time for gasoline. Incredible.
Yep, it's definitely, and this is the season where people tend to use a lot of fuel, whether it's the snowmobile, the snowblower, they're using it to heat their house if you're on oil. So yeah, it's definitely takes a bite out of people's wallets.
No doubt we'll have more on this in the coming days. Thanks for watching.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.